The crystal chandeliers of the prestigious Pacific Heights bistro tinkled delicately as an elegant, meticulously groomed man entered, his designer loafers echoing across the travertine flooring. Gazes shifted as Christopher Mason, an influential member of Lay's upper echelon, walked in with natural sophistication, recognized for his bespoke attire, perfectly coiffed locks, and a presence that verged on superiority. Christopher had earned a reputation for transforming each arrival into an event. Tonight, however, he would meet someone unexpected, an individual who would crack his carefully constructed facade and impart a message about modesty he'd carry forever. Located atop a skyscraper surveying the sparkling shores of Santa Monica, the establishment was the pinnacle of Los Angeles culinary excellence. With contemporary furnishings, vast glass panels showcasing stunning coastal vistas, and an atmosphere that radiated privilege, it drew cinema's elite and corporate titans alike. It was an establishment where influence and affluence murmured between mouthfuls of expertly prepared dishes, where guests invested as heavily in the setting as the cuisine. Christopher inhaled the aroma of luxury candles and seasoned hardwood, a subtle grin of contentment crossing his features. This was his domain, where every server and employee understood their role, attending to the desires of clientele who demanded absolute excellence. Meanwhile, Marcus Daniels, a young African-American in his late 20s, moved smoothly between tables, managing platters, and offering genuine grins. He donned the venue's traditional ebony attire, his dark spiraled hair precisely groomed, his bearing noble despite the extended shifts. Marcus embodied quiet determination. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, he had emerged from a household where perseverance was essential. After financing his education through academic awards and numerous jobs, Marcus relocated to LA, aspiring to establish himself in show business. But aspirations proved expensive, and a metropolis like LA seldom showed kindness. Employment at this establishment was intended as temporary, a transition phase, but in this city of sparkle and spectacle, interim positions frequently became permanent ones. As Christopher positioned himself at a window seat, he barely scanned the selections before dismissively gesturing. Noting the motion, Marcus squared his shoulders, pushing aside weariness from yesterday's extended hours, and approached wearing his customary courteous expression. "Good evening, sir. Welcome. May I begin with a beverage?" he inquired. Christopher maintained his downward gaze. Instead, he tweaked his platinum cufflinks and elevated his chin slightly, studying Marcus with an arched brow. "I'll take a glass of your premium scotch," he commanded, his voice laden with privilege. "And ensure it's presented neat. Absolutely no ice." Marcus hesitated, familiar with peculiar demands, but startled by the intensity of Christopher's condescension. "Of course, sir. I'll fetch that immediately," he responded, sustaining his professional manner, despite the impact of Christopher's attitude lingering. As Marcus turned toward the bar, Christopher exhaled theatrically, audible to nearby diners. "Service nowadays," he complained, displaying disapproval. "I can't fathom why finding capable staff is so challenging." Christopher's remark, delivered with intentional harshness, drew attention from surrounding patrons. Marcus sensed heat rising in his face, but concentrated on maintaining steady movement as he withdrew. After working here nearly 12 months, he developed resilience, yet interactions like these always left an unpleasant residue. In the service area, Marcus took several steadying inhales, feeling Christopher's contempt gnawing at his confidence. He observed his image in a burnished silver platter, remembering his mother's wisdom. "Dignity remains yours unless surrendered, Marcus." Regaining focus, he poured the scotch meticulously, arranging it on a pristine tray. Upon returning to Christopher's table, Marcus placed the glass down carefully, hoping to avoid additional tension. But as Christopher raised the glass toward his mouth, his expression contorted in theatrical revulsion. "Room temperature," Christopher whispered harshly, his tone elevated enough for nearby listeners. "Is following basic instructions truly this challenging?" Marcus drew a stabilizing breath, striving to maintain composure. My apologies, sir. I'll bring another immediately. Don't trouble yourself, Christopher interrupted with a dismissive gesture. I suppose expecting excellence is unreasonable these days. He flashed Marcus a condescending smile, saturated with twisted benevolence. Let me predict, you likely can't comprehend the standards individuals of my caliber must uphold. Marcus's fingers tightened imperceptibly around the serving tray, each syllable testing his resolve. He yearned to respond, to explain that he understood dedication, that every evening in this establishment brought him closer to his aspirations. Yet he remained silent. Individuals like Christopher weren't interested in personal tales. They noticed only uniforms, only those they deemed inferior. Just as Marcus prepared to withdraw from the situation, a voice behind Christopher shattered the strained atmosphere. It was resonant, measured, and carried an influence that commanded attention. Am I understanding this exchange correctly? The voice inquired, filled with subtle power. Christopher stiffened, his fingers suspended midway to his drink, and gradually pivoted to confront the speaker. Occupying the neighboring table was Douglas Winters, one of Los Angeles' most distinguished legal minds. In his 5th decade, Douglas possessed an imposing frame and emanated composed confidence. His influence was well known, celebrated for his charitable endeavors and dedication to social justice. He was someone Christopher identified immediately. Douglas captured Christopher's gaze, his stare unflinching. "Pardon my intrusion," he began, his words carrying subtle steel, "but I couldn't avoid observing your interaction with this professional." He gestured toward Marcus, his expression softening upon regarding the young server. Christopher's complexion paled, his self-assured manner wavering beneath Douglas' scrutiny. "Mr. Winters, I wasn't aware. I mean," he faltered, searching for coherence, his grin strained and anxious. Douglas elevated his brow, unmoved. "What reached my ears was superiority," he proceeded, his tone controlled yet resolute. "This young professional," he motioned toward Marcus, "strives to enhance your dining experience, yet you've determined his worth based solely on his occupation." Christopher's features flushed crimson, his gaze darting across the dining room as fellow guests observed intently. His struggle to regain poise met Douglas' unwavering attention. "Dignity reflects character," Douglas stated, his message precise yet diplomatic. "Individuals like Marcus represent the foundation of venues like this. They create the essence of such establishments, warranting our appreciation." Marcus experienced a surge of validation, a sensation of honor and acknowledgement lifting his spirit. Before him stood someone he'd admired from afar, defending his dignity, confirming his value. He observed the supporting gestures from surrounding diners, their expressions now showing understanding. Douglas addressed Marcus directly. "Marcus, should you be free after your duties conclude, I'd appreciate discussing a proposition," he offered, warmth spreading across his features. "My foundation provides educational funding and professional opportunities for motivated individuals such as yourself. We'd benefit from someone possessing your perseverance and commitment." Marcus' pulse quickened, his grip trembling slightly on the tray. Emotion threatened to overflow, but he maintained composure, offering a modest, appreciative smile. "Thank you, Mr. Winters," he responded, his voice unwavering yet emotional. "I would be grateful." Christopher remained motionless, struggling to articulate any response. The dynamics had shifted, exposing his unkindness before everyone present. An unfamiliar sensation of vulnerability enveloped him, something foreign to his recent experience. He glanced between Marcus and Douglas before lowering his gaze, isolated in his humiliation. Douglas regarded Christopher once more, his expression steadfast. "Courtesy flows reciprocally, Mr. Mason," he stated. "It's something we must all demonstrate, regardless of position." With that, Douglas returned his attention to Marcus, offering a final gesture of support. The establishment watched silently as Marcus proceeded toward the kitchen, carrying himself with renewed dignity, his spirit overflowing with appreciation. His colleagues welcomed him with understanding expressions, recognizing the significance of the moment. As Christopher Mason departed that evening, his posture diminished. He carried the harsh realization that despite his affluence and position, he'd overlooked the essential truth. Genuine merit wasn't measured in luxury attire or prestigious locations, but in the fundamental grace of human decency. For Marcus, this evening marked a beginning, transforming his self-perception from service staff to an individual with aspirations, determination, and newfound self-assurance. Surveying the restaurant, his heart swelled with anticipation for the possibilities now within grasp. How would you respond witnessing such an exchange? Share your answer in comments. Subscribe for more transformative stories revealing everyday heroes, because often those we disregard hold the greatest wisdom to share.